In this video, we're doing a follow-up to my previous lecture on an introduction to HUD stats, and now we're going to be doing our live demonstration portion of that lecture. So what you see right here is I have a table of full flush poker, 2NL, full ring up and running, and I also, let me go ahead and pull this up, I also have a 6 max Bovada 5NL table up and running. And so I'm going to demonstrate the Hold'em indicator HUD here. This is a HUD that I use. I'm going to demonstrate that on both of these sides. So let's go back to the full flush table. And this information here that's overlaying on the table, these are HUD stats. And I just started this table up and I have not played against any of these players before. So what you notice here where you see the pound sign, this is the number of hands that it's recorded. So on all these opponents, it's only recorded one hand. And this Rob guy over here, it hasn't recorded any hands yet because he hasn't played. And now what you're going to notice as the opponents play, and I'm going to flip back and forth between these two different tables, the Bovada and the full flush one, is what you're going to notice is that this data, this information, these HUD stats, they're going to start to populate over time. And so for example, we have our VPIP, we have our pre-flop raise HUD stats, we have our went to showdown HUD stats, we have our steal HUD stats, our 3-bet HUD stats, and our continuation bet HUD stats. So let me jump over to our 5NL table. Now on Bovada, it's anonymous play. So whenever anybody gets up, this information is going to be refreshed. So for example, if player 6 got up and somebody else came in after he'd been playing for 30 minutes, the HUD's going to refresh and it's going to act like there's a new player there. And then when you get up, it's going to erase all this information and it's not going to keep it in its database. So let's go back over here to this table and I'm going to go ahead and pull up another view of the HUD stats. So we can look at HUD stats by looking at this table as well. And what this shows is the VPIP, the voluntary put in pot, the pre-flop raise, the 3-bet, and then after the pipe symbol, this will be how often somebody folds to a 3-bet. So if there's like a 100 here, that means 100% of the time they're folding to a 3-bet. And here, this is going to be on the pipe symbol on the other side over here. It's also going to be how often they fold to steal. This is how often they steal. We didn't talk about aggression factor, and this is a bit of an antiquated HUD stat that not that many people look at anymore. So we're not too worried about looking at that. This is the C-bet stats, and on the other side of the pipe there's going to be how often they fold to C-bet, and this is the went to showdown, and the other side of the pipe is how often they win when they go to showdown. So for example, Fat Fish, we have 2 hands on him. His VPIP is 50%, so he's limped in. Well, now it's updated. You'll notice, so this is what I'm talking about when it seamlessly updates and records. So we have 3 hands on him now, and he is limped in 67% of the time. So 2 out of 3 hands he's limped in or raised. Now out of those 2 hands, he's raised 33% of the time. So he's played 2 hands. One of them he's limped in, and one of them he's raised. Because remember, this is how often that this person's in the pot voluntarily, whether it's a limp or it's a raise. He has yet to 3-bet or fold to a 3-bet. He's yet to steal from the cut off the button or the small blind, and he's yet to fold to a steal. And we don't have any continuation bet stats on him. It's gone to showdown, 1 out of those 2 hands. So actually 1 out of, well, actually this is not updated. This would be 1.5 times, but it should only be from the previous one. So it's gone to showdown 1 out of 2 times, and the one time that it has gone to showdown, he's won because he's won 100% of the time. And this I also have on my HUD. It shows how much a person is up or how much they're down. So this is going to be automatically updated every hand that they play. So you're going to have up-to-date information on each player. On most HUDs, you can also hover over. So let me pull Bud in here so you can see what I'm talking about. And if I just hover and hold, we get to look at his HUD stats in detail here as well. We can look at, for example, if you look at the steal line, actually if you look at the 3-bet line, because it has the information there, you'll notice that he's had the ability to potentially 3-bet in one hand, but he hasn't. And we don't have any stats on regards to somebody 3-betting him because nobody's 3-bet him yet. Now let's go ahead and pull up the Bovada table and see if we have more stats on players over here. So let's go ahead and look at this opponent's information, player 6. We know that we have 4 hands on him. He has seen 25% of the hands voluntarily where he's either limped or pre-flopped. and he has pre-flop raised 25% of the time. So what we're seeing here, when you see that there is no gap between the PFR and the VPIP, it means that 25% of the hand he has limp to raised, 100% of those, because this is the same percentage of hands, he has raised. So out of these 4 hands, he's only seen one hand involuntarily, and he's raised that one hand. When there's a gap between that, for example, we'll pull up this player over here. When there's a gap between the VPIP and pre-flop raise, what it means is that he has played every single hand. So he has voluntarily played, and this just updated to 80 and 20. So out of 5 hands, he has played 80% of them voluntarily, whether it's a raise or a limp. And out of those 5 hands, only 20% of them he's raising. The remaining portion of that 80%, he's limping in. So there's a 60% gap between these numbers. And what that really tells us is that out of this 80%, he is raising the top 20% of his hands, and he's limping in the lower 60%. Now, there's not really many stats on the other portions of post-flop play and pre-flop play on here, unfortunately, simply because we don't have a large enough sample size. But what you're going to start seeing over time, and we'll see if there's anything on this table. Unfortunately, there's nothing on steals, 3-bets, and c-bets for anybody except for Bud, where we know that he's folded to 100% times when he's faced a c-bet. But there's really not much on any other player. We know that Fatfish, when he is a pre-flop aggressor, he's c-bet 100% of the time here. And let's see if I can get some steal stats on anybody. Looks like we don't have much. This opponent was in the position to steal, and he has yet to steal, so his steal stat is 0%. Let's see if anybody's faced a steal on this table. Unfortunately, it looks like nobody has. Now, for 3-bet stats, we can look at most opponents. Typically, you're going to have very low 3-bet stats, so it shows that almost everybody here has a 3-bet of 0%. Typically, because at the micros, people are only 3-betting really strong hands like pocket jacks plus or ace queen or ace king plus. So typically 3-bet stats are going to be really, really low. You're going to need a fairly large sample size of hands before you start seeing 3-bets. And then c-bets will start to appear fairly quickly as players actually get into hands. Now this player here, he's only c-bet 50% of the time. Previously it was 100% of the time. And then we have this opponent over here, he's c-bet 100% of the time. And then of course Bud, we talked about earlier, he's folded to 100% of c-bets. And if we look back over here on our Bovada table, now we're starting to see stats because 6 max we're going to see a lot more action and players are forced to play more hands. And so now here you're going to start to see more stats on players. For example, this player, he has a VPIP of 83. So out of 6 hands, he's played 83% of them voluntarily, and he has yet to raise any of them. So what that tells us is that he's limping in every time he's in the pot. And there are no more fairly interesting stats here. So that's going to go ahead and conclude our quick demonstration. I know this is an introductory demonstration, but I just wanted to demonstrate what a HUD looks like when you're playing and how it works. Again, if you want detailed information on HUD stats, how they work, detailed analysis, detailed demonstrations, you're going to need to look at my Developing Poker Reads course, because that's when I dedicate lots of hours, lots of lectures, lots of hands-on exercises, and lots of demonstrations to HUD stats and different player types and how they relate. So again, like I said in my previous lecture, if you do want a promotional code for that course, just let me know. And that's going to answer a lot of your questions when it pertains to HUD stats. This is really just a primer for those of you that are taking this course, or for people that have already been introduced to HUD stats. This is a bit of a refresher for them as well. So that'll go ahead and conclude our live demonstration. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions that pertain to this live demonstration, let me know. I'm always happy to answer. And if not, we'll see you at the next lecture.